So we're going to talk about the sound design for our projects of a thriller opening. The very first stages which we had to go through was the actual creation of the sounds. The original sound came from we downloaded it off the internet basically, but it's a recording of those power slides on the more older sort of cars, which I guess you find them in the 80s or something. I'm not entirely sure, but this is what it sounds like originally. So it already contains a lot of the elements which we're after, and the process which we had to go through was just basically audio stretching and some EQing. All these tracks have received the same EQing settings here, because we wanted a more sort of I wanted the samples to relate to each other, and with a common EQ setting, we can achieve that. The algorithms in Ableton, which are used for audio warping or audio stretching, we've got quite a few selections here, and the ones which we used the most was the beats and the complex algorithm. So the complex algorithm is really good for more metallic tones, and which is what we're after for a more robotic movement. An example would be this one here, I think. Yeah. No, not that one. Sorry. This one. Yeah, so that's an example. And this is another example. This is a very sort of smooth metallic tone, which compared to this this is a lot more dry. Another algorithm which we use a lot was the beat algorithm, and the beat algorithm is traditionally used for percussive drums, percussive sounds, but however, once you stretch a sample out, the algorithm can't predict where the initial hit of the percussive sounds are anymore, so it just makes it up, and it creates this very nice glitching effect like this one. And that's what we've done a lot for sort of smaller high pitched sounds, and we pitch the sounds up and we've manipulated it so that, and once we're done with the actual creation of the sounds, we created a new project file and basically arranged everything, and this is where we edited the sounds accordingly to the video. So once PrAuGe was finished with the rough cut, we just dragged the video onto the project file, and the first bit of work which you have to do is just mark out where the shots changed. And this is quite boring, it's not very interesting, but it's really useful to be able to work out where it is in here on this timeline. Because what you can do is that you can create a sample as long as you want, and you can change where the highlighted parts are and isolate them and cut them off, and it's very clean and quick to do. The actual process of doing this is just long in the beginning. So to give an example of what we've done, this is the first sound which you'd hear, which describes the robotic side of the protagonist. If I just isolate these two sounds. So there's two layers to this sound. The first layer was one of the glitching sounds, which you heard before, and all these sounds were processed a little further, like they've been EQ'd to sort of describe, to make it more fitting to the body part it's trying to describe, or what the objects it's trying to describe. This is just a drone layer. and this is the glitching layer. The sounds don't exactly represent what is happening in the visuals exactly, but they can describe it without the actual visuals, and that's kind of what we were after. In a lot of these shots here, where you just saw holograms and HUDs, quite similar to Iron Man's HUD when Tony Stark wears a suit, and the point of this is to try and describe what was happening in the background where the protagonist's body is being constructed. And so this is one of the movements, one of the series of sounds we had for that. So the sounds weren't all playing together, and they sort of rotated between these two sounds here, and they've been panned out as well, to sort of give a sense of width and something's happening all around the audience. And this goes on for quite a few shots, and there's other shots like this one as well. Yeah. So all these sounds have also been sent to a return track, which just has a reverb effect on it, and this is just to give the sounds a sense of space and sense of belonging. Because I felt that like there was no reverb at first, and it was very strange, and it sounded very out of context and didn't belong part of the whole mix of the project. One of the big things we also focused on in the arrangement section was to do with filtering. Filtering, we basically used a low pass filter to describe where the sound was coming from in context. One example would be that we used filtering for more subtle body movements, like this one. Oh, sorry, didn't solo it. So there's a low pass filter here, which is being switched on. This one here, and this is sort of described a really subtle, small movement in the protagonist's body. Not only did filtering just helps describe what part of the body is being moved, it also describes where the sound is coming from. So, for example, in this shot here, I'll just show you what it sounds like first. So you can hear that the filtering changes from being low pass to unfiltered and back again. And the point of this is to show that in the first shot here, we're basically listening the sound through the protagonist's ears, and because she's standing outside the elevator, she can't hear the higher frequencies, because high frequencies don't exactly travel through walls and surfaces like that. It's more of the low frequencies, and filtering helps describes this. So when we're inside the elevator, when camera shows inside the elevator, there's no filtering anymore, so we can hear high frequencies and then back again. Also, the elevators receive their own reverb and their own sense of space, because that's going to be a bit different. I think it's bigger than the other reverb channel, longer decay times, just to give it more bigger sense of space. Filtering was also used like in terms of the positioning of where the main character is. So as the main character walks in through the door, she'd be able to hear the sound of cooking being clearer and louder as she approaches the room. And when she looks, and the audience is also in that room now, so they should be able to hear the sound of cooking clearly. So the transition between the two. Filtering was not the only thing which helped us describe where the position of the sound came from. There's also a lot of stereo panning involved, and where the sound is coming from in the stereo field. So as the scene changes here, the filtering doesn't change much, it just a small bit. But there's sudden movements in panning to describe the changing shots. So it suddenly becomes more left as the scene changes here, as the shot changes, and then it goes back to being the center when the audience is looking at the four clones here. And that is it for the sound design aspect of this project. The music we made in another separate project file as well, and then we just dragged and dropped it here.